Nestled in the heart of rolling hills, the farm sprawled across several acres of lush green fields, a picturesque tableau framed by a clear blue sky. Each morning, the sun peeked over the horizon, casting a golden hue across the corn stalks swaying gently in the breeze. Chickens clucked and roamed freely, while a couple of goats nibbled on grass near the wooden fence that bordered the property. The air was fragrant with the earthy scent of tilled soil, punctuated by the sweet aroma of blooming wildflowers. This serene landscape wasn't just a source of sustenance, it was a way of life. The farm operated on principles of self-sustainability. Solar panels adorned the barn roof, collecting energy to power essential equipment. The narrator took pride in this independence, finding joy in tending to crops and livestock while embracing nature's rhythm. Beyond the fields lay a tight-knit community where everyone knew each other by name. Neighbors exchanged crops and shared labor during harvest seasons, fostering bonds rooted in mutual support. Children played freely in yards, their laughter ringing out against the backdrop of chirping birds and rustling leaves. In this idyllic setting, cooperation thrived, and unwritten rules of courtesy guided interactions. However, beneath this harmonious surface lurked an underlying tension, a conflict that threatened to disrupt the peace. Little did anyone know that an encounter with an overly assertive HOA member was on the horizon, a clash that would test the very fabric of their community. At the heart of this tranquil farm lived the narrator, a dedicated farmer named Tom. With calloused hands and sun-kissed skin, he embodied the essence of hard work and resilience. Every day began at dawn, when he would rise with the sun, tending to his crops and animals with an unwavering commitment that had been passed down through generations. Farming was not just a job for Tom, it was a way of life that connected him deeply to the land and to the neighbors who shared this rural existence. Tom took pride in fostering a sense of community, often hosting harvest dinners where friends and families gathered to celebrate their hard work over hearty meals. He believed in the power of cooperation, knowing that each person's contribution was vital to their collective success. However, this commitment to community was soon challenged by an unexpected complication. Enter Karen, the local HOA member whose relentless pursuit of control over neighborhood regulations left many scratching their heads. With her oversized sunglasses and clipboard in hand, she patrolled the area as if it were her own kingdom, enforcing rules that often felt more like personal vendettas than sensible guidelines. Her latest intrusion involved tapping into Tom's electricity without permission, a blatant overstep that crossed a line he was unwilling to tolerate. As tensions mounted, Tom realized that standing up for his rights would mean confronting not only Karen but also navigating the complexities of maintaining harmony in his beloved community. As summer rolled in, Tom's peaceful days on the farm were increasingly disrupted by the creeping presence of Karen. At first, her behavior seemed merely annoying, an occasional complaint about stray chickens or misplaced garden gnomes, but it quickly escalated into a blatant violation of boundaries. It was one warm afternoon that Tom discovered her latest overreach. He noticed an extension cord running from his barn to her home, snaking across the grass like a serpent. Tom's initial disbelief turned to anger as he realized that she had been tapping into his electricity without so much as a word or a request. The audacity of it was staggering. While he had always championed fairness and cooperation among neighbors, Karen seemed to operate under a different set of rules entirely, believing that her status as an HOA member provided her with rights beyond those of others in the community. Each recent visit from her had come with directives that felt less like neighborly advice and more like demands served with a side of entitlement. When confronted, Karen would flip the situation back on Tom, claiming he was too old-fashioned to appreciate the modern conveniences she brought to the neighborhood. For Tom, her actions were not just a theft of resources, they represented a fundamental lack of respect for both him and the principles of community they had shared. Frustration boiled in him, urging him to consider what his next step should be in addressing this unwarranted invasion. Tom's frustration grew like a storm brewing on the horizon, darkening his once peaceful thoughts. The violation of his property felt deeply personal, as if Karen had not only encroached upon his land but also disrespected the values he held dear. Honesty and fairness were the cornerstones of their community. He had always believed that neighbors should support one another, not take advantage. Yet here was Karen, flaunting her disregard for these principles with every unwarranted demand and theft of electricity. Each time he caught sight of that extension cord snaking across his yard, it triggered a wave of indignation. Did she truly think she could impose her will on others without consequence? The audacity of it was maddening. Tom spent sleepless nights replaying their interactions in his mind, her dismissive comments echoing like an unwelcome refrain. She claimed to be modernizing the neighborhood while undermining the very foundation of trust that had been built over years. It gnawed at him that someone so entrenched in the community could act with such entitlement. Tom found himself at a crossroads, torn between wanting to maintain peace and feeling compelled to stand up for what was right. Each day that passed without confrontation felt like an erosion of his dignity, pushing him closer to taking action. He realized that confronting Karen would not just be about reclaiming his electricity, it would be a declaration of his commitment to uphold the values he cherished within their close-knit community. After days of simmering frustration, Tom finally decided it was time to take action against Karen. He wanted to confront her, but he also realized that a direct approach might escalate tensions and disrupt the harmony he cherished in the community. Instead, he opted for a more humorous yet assertive tactic, a fake HOA Power Bill. Sitting at his kitchen table one evening, Tom began to brainstorm ideas. Armed with a notepad and a pen, he sketched out what the bill would look like. He envisioned a mock-up that could pass as an official document, complete with the HOA logo, a simple touch he figured would add an air of authenticity. He jotted down a humorous breakdown of charges, including an absurd fee for Karen's unauthorized electricity usage, along with a service charge for neighborly interventions. As he crafted this playful document, Tom couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. It felt good to channel his frustration into something creative rather than letting it consume him. Once completed, he printed it out on his home printer, admiring how convincingly it looked like an actual bill. Tom's plan was to deliver this fictitious power bill directly to Karen's door, hoping it would serve as both a wake-up call and a reminder that her actions had consequences. With a newfound sense of purpose, he felt ready to confront the situation with a mix of humor and assertiveness, qualities he believed exemplified true community spirit even in the face of conflict. With a renewed sense of purpose, Tom sat down at his kitchen table, determined to craft a fake HOA Power Bill that would be both convincing and humorous. He began by brainstorming the essential elements that would lend authenticity to his creation. First, he needed a suitable layout. He turned to a couple of old bills he had saved for reference. Using his computer, Tom designed the document to mimic their structure, complete with a header that displayed the fictitious HOA name in bold letters. Next came the fine print. Tom crafted a series of charges that were both absurd and amusing. He included a line item for Karen's unauthorized electricity usage, absurdly inflated to reflect not only the kilowatt hours but also an additional neighborhood disturbance fee for the chaos her actions had caused. To add another layer of humor, he coined a new charge called proactive neighbor support, which absurdly implied that providing assistance should come with a price tag. Once he finished the text, Tom chose an appropriate font that matched those found on official documents, enhancing its credibility. Printing it on slightly thicker paper gave it a firm feel, resembling an actual bill. As he folded it neatly into an envelope, he couldn't help but chuckle at the thought of Karen's reaction when she opened it. Feeling satisfied with his creation, Tom realized he was not just sending her a bill, he was crafting an opportunity for levity amidst conflict, reminding both of them of the unspoken rules of community cooperation while standing firm against her blatant overreach. With the fake bill in hand, Tom took a deep breath and walked toward Karen's house, feeling both nervous and excited about the impending exchange. He approached her front porch, adorned with cheerful flower pots and an ostentatious welcome mat that read, "Home Sweet Home." As he knocked on the door, he could hear the faint sound of a television playing inside. Karen opened the door, her expression shifting from surprise to annoyance as she recognized him. "What do you want, Tom?" she asked, crossing her arms defensively. With a friendly smile, Tom replied, "I wanted to drop off something for you." He held out the envelope, watching her brow furrow in confusion. "It's your latest HOA Power Bill." She hesitated before taking the envelope and tearing it open. As she read through the charges, especially the line item for neighborhood disturbance fee, Tom could see her face transition from confusion to disbelief and then to anger. "This is ridiculous," she exclaimed, glaring at him. "You think this is funny?" Tom maintained his composure, his heart racing with excitement. "Just a little reminder about boundaries, Karen," he said lightly. "We all have to contribute fairly in our community." Karen's face flushed with indignation as she glanced back at the bill. "You can't just mock people like this. Maybe next time you'll think twice before plugging into my electricity," he replied with a grin before turning to walk away. As he headed back home, Tom felt a surge of satisfaction. He had taken a stand without losing his sense of humor, a small victory in an ongoing battle that reminded him of the importance of community respect and cooperation. As Tom walked away, Karen stood on her porch, staring at the bill in disbelief. She flipped through the pages again, hoping that somehow it would reveal itself as a joke or a misunderstanding. "This can't be real," she exclaimed, her voice rising in pitch. The absurdity of the charges struck her as ridiculous at first, but as reality set in, her expression twisted into one of outrage. "How dare he mock me like this," she thought, clenching the paper tightly in her hand. Her cheeks flushed with indignation as she recalled all the times she had felt justified in her actions. In her mind, this bill was an affront not just to her authority as an HOA member but also to her sense of entitlement that had gone unchallenged for far too long. Karen marched down the steps and called after Tom, "You think you can just get away with this? You're just a farmer. I have rights." Her voice carried across the yard, blending anger and disbelief. As Tom turned to face her again, he could see her true character emerging, a blend of fury and desperation that revealed how threatened she felt. "You will regret this," she blurted out, as if trying to regain control over a situation spiraling beyond her grasp. The more Karen protested and raged against what she perceived as an injustice, the clearer it became to Tom that he had struck a nerve. The facade of authority she had constructed began to crumble under the weight of his light-hearted challenge. He realized this encounter was not merely about a power bill, it was about drawing lines and asserting boundaries in a community where respect should prevail. Word of Tom's humorous confrontation with Karen spread quickly through their close-knit community. Neighbors gathered at the local diner, sharing hearty laughter over cups of coffee and slices of pie as they recounted the incident. "Did you hear about Karen and the electricity bill?" one neighbor chuckled, prompting a chorus of amused responses from the others. Some residents expressed their support for Tom, praising his creativity and courage in standing up to Karen's unwarranted demands. "It's about time someone put her in her place," said Martha, a longtime resident known for her homemade cookies. Others nodded in agreement, sharing stories of their own run-ins with Karen's overbearing ways. The camaraderie among them grew stronger as they united against a common frustration. Meanwhile, a few neighbors who had been more reserved felt encouraged to voice their opinions, emboldened by Tom's actions. "I've always felt she crossed the line, but I never knew how to say anything," one man confessed, stirring his coffee thoughtfully. As the laughter echoed in the diner, it was clear that Tom's light-hearted jab at Karen had sparked a sense of solidarity among the neighbors. They rallied behind him, not just in amusement but also in support. The incident became a catalyst for conversations about boundaries and respect within their community, reminding everyone that standing together could empower them against any overzealous HOA member. And as for Karen, her reputation began to wane, a shift that many felt was long overdue. In the days following Tom's confrontation, the fallout for Karen became increasingly evident. The incident, once shared in hushed whispers, quickly turned into a hot topic among the HOA members. During their next meeting, the usual decorum was replaced with a palpable tension as murmurs of disapproval filled the room. Many members expressed concern about her behavior, highlighting that her actions went beyond mere protocol violations. They symbolized a disregard for neighborly respect and community values. Karen attempted to defend herself, arguing that she merely borrowed the electricity, but her explanations fell flat against the mounting evidence of her entitlement. The members who had previously aligned with her began to question whether her assertiveness was beneficial or harmful to the neighborhood. It became clear that Tom had unwittingly opened a floodgate of grievances many felt but had been too intimidated to voice. As discussions continued, it was suggested that Karen face some form of accountability for her actions. Even some of her closest allies began to distance themselves, realizing how toxic her behavior had become. In the end, the HOA decided to issue Karen a formal warning regarding her conduct and instructed her to rectify any damages caused by her unauthorized use of Tom's electricity. For Karen, this served as a harsh wake-up call. Her reputation within the community had faltered significantly. The very authority she wielded now seemed more like a burden, forcing her to reassess her approach toward her neighbors and reconsider her role within the HOA she once dominated without question. As the dust settled from the confrontation with Karen and the subsequent community reactions, Tom found himself reflecting on the lessons learned. He realized that setting boundaries was essential for maintaining respect among neighbors. For too long, Karen had pushed the limits of what was acceptable, and by standing up to her, he reinforced not only his own rights but also the values that held their community together. Tom understood that accountability was crucial. Everyone needed to recognize the impact of their actions on others. Karen's downfall served as a reminder that entitlement could not go unchecked without repercussions. It highlighted the importance of having a community where individuals supported one another in upholding mutual respect rather than allowing one person's overreach to disrupt harmony. Yet, amid the seriousness of it all, Tom also appreciated the role humor played in navigating conflicts. His decision to approach the situation with creativity and wit not only lightened the heavy atmosphere but also strengthened community bonds. Laughter became a tool for connection, allowing neighbors to unite against a common frustration while reminding them of their shared values. In the end, Tom felt grateful for the experience. It taught him that even in difficult situations, maintaining a sense of humor could foster resilience and camaraderie. As he surveyed his farm, his sanctuary and a symbol of community, he resolved to embrace these lessons moving forward, ensuring that his relationships with neighbors remained rooted in honesty, respect, and laughter. As Tom stood on his farm, watching the sun set over the rolling hills, he felt a renewed sense of optimism about his community. The experience with Karen had transformed into an unexpected opportunity for growth and connection among neighbors. What began as a conflict over boundaries had evolved into an important lesson about standing up for oneself while fostering a spirit of unity and understanding. In the days that followed, the laughter shared at the diner echoed in Tom's mind, serving as a reminder that humor could lighten even the heaviest of situations. His light-hearted approach to confronting Karen not only helped him reclaim his sense of agency but also encouraged others to voice their concerns without fear. The community barriers that had once felt insurmountable began to crumble as neighbors found common ground in shared stories and experiences. Celebrating these newfound connections became vital. As summer progressed, Tom organized gatherings for residents, a potluck here, a barn dance there, bringing everyone together to strengthen their bonds. Each event was infused with warmth, laughter, and the understanding that they were collectively responsible for nurturing their tight-knit community. In reflecting on these events, Tom realized that conflicts could be resolved without animosity when approached with empathy and humor. He felt grateful for his neighbors and their willingness to come together rather than let one person's actions divide them. Ultimately, this experience solidified Tom's belief in the power of community, one forged through respect, laughter, and shared resilience against challenges.